you'll know that it actually gains speed very quickly, surprisingly agile aircraft. And of course, last, we have ADI mode. ADI mode is probably the most difficult of modes to learn how to fly, since you're not using the GPS for any more stabilization. So now you have to, but it gives pilots a lot more nuanced control in terms of how the aircraft is behaving. And then I'd also like to draw your attention to the fact that Brandon is not using the keys on the actual computer to fly, but he actually is using the actual remote controller that you would on a normal aircraft. And this, of course, connects by USB. Now, some of you may ask, what happens if you crash? Well, I can tell you that's certainly possible in the simulator. But it's much better that something like that happens in a virtual environment, than actually out in the real world. Because ultimately, we want to create an environment where it's very easy for pilots to push their skills. An easy environment for pilots to push their skills, but also test their boundaries, right? So Brandon, why don't we go into the applications mode next? As we mentioned earlier, there's several different modes in which you can use Flight Simulator. And of course, all of our aircraft are also available here to try. Now here, we're going to move over to the Mavic 2 Enterprise. And then Brandon's going to select the Spotlight accessory. And over the last few years, as we've been working with partners to develop unique scenarios, we developed several different missions that pilots can train on. Today, we're going to go with the power line inspection, but we also have search and rescue scenarios set up, or wind turbines and others. And of course, we can custom build these for our enterprise partners. Now, the idea with these application scenarios is that we take the basic scenario of how you would run some type of an inspection and really break it down into individual steps. Now first, Brandon's going to take off, and you can see the power line out on the horizon. Now as he starts heading towards there, you'll notice that the Mavic 2 Enterprise is a much smaller aircraft than the M210 RTK. So he needs to switch down into his RC view and then into the FPV view in order to navigate, just like you would out in the real world. And this, again, was a very specific design choice that we made. Now, as part of the basic inspection, when you arrive on site, you first wanted to take a contextualizing shot. And this, later on, can be used to understand which power line we're inspecting, and of course, take a look for any potential vegetation encroachment as well. Now, as we move closer to the power line, we're going to start by inspecting the grounding cable that's at the very top. Now, as he approaches closer, he'll get the shots that he needs. And again, notice the amount of detail that's built in here, because you can see every individual nut and bolt that is here on this grounding cable. Brandon, can we also zoom in? Can we show the Mavic 2 zoom, Mavic 2 Enterprise zoom feature as well? So, in these type of inspection scenarios, being able to have that 2x optical and 3x digital zoom, again, allows you just to get a much closer look at the details that you need, while at the same time maintaining the stand between the drone and the actual asset. Okay, so now I think we've inspected the grounding cables, and we'll move on to the insulators. And this, I think, also is a great way to validate how useful something like a drone inspection can be to someone who's actually inspecting a power line. Because the traditional way of doing this would be for someone to go up on a rope and hoist themselves up and physically look at every single one of these parts. And by doing a drone inspection, we're simply able to do that process that much faster. Now, in the simulator, we're also able to control the environmental conditions. I'm sure all the pilots out there understand that you might plan for one thing, but what happens out in the field might be completely different. You might experience interference, or perhaps rain and adverse weather. And here we're going to take it easy. We're just going to bring it over into nighttime so that we can show you how the spotlight can work in an inspection scenario. But again, on the fly with the simulator, the users are able to tweak the environmental parameters in order to simulate any type of mission they want. So here we've turned on the spotlight. And I think we can up the brightness a little bit as well. And again, all this can be done through the convenience of the DJI Pilot app. And of course, as we move closer, you can see now it's illuminating all the details. So I think this is just one interesting example of how we're able to use the simulator to recreate all the details that go into actual real-world drone operations.